apple tree that grew for you and me. I watched the apples falling one by one, and I recall the moment of them all.
The Bee Gees were a pop and disco group fronted by three brothers who were called Robin, Barry and Maurice Gibb, and Bee Gees stands for the initials Bee Gees, which stands in turn for Brothers Gibb. They were founded in Oz, although they were English. Actually, previously there'd been a skiffle band called the Rattlesnakes in the late 50s. After they'd had some success as the Bee Gees in Australia, they came back to England in 1967. And they then had a successful run as a kind of pop folk group for a few years. In the mid-70s, they changed to falsetto disco and became huge, and that's the era that most people know them from. They've had a few breaks in service, but they've been on more than off. They have released 22 studio albums, the last in 2001. So Morris died in 2003 and Robin died in 2012, and at that point the band seems to have officially stopped. Hi, my name's Dan. So in some ways this is quite an odd album. It's my first time hearing it, but I know of the Bee Gees, of course. It's not, well, it is odd for a start because it's Bee Gees, but it's not disco. So that's what a lot of people will know the Bee Gees for, will be for their disco work in the late 70s. So this is kind of, it's orchestral pop with elements of folky stuff and hippie stuff in here as well. It's kind of at times like orchestral pop, like Barry Manilow and Scott Walker and people like Andy Williams and etc. And it's definitely a kind of opulent and sprawling album. It's a double album originally, and there's a lot of stuff here. So I wasn't surprised that it wasn't disco, because I knew that the Bee Gees had a previous existence, as it were. And, you know, a fair few people will know that, but there might be people to whom that comes as a surprise. What I'm going to say about it, yeah, so some of it is poppy folky, some of it is just orchestral. So there's a couple of instrumental tracks like Seven Seas Symphony. The track Marleypert Drive is a kind of country thing. The track Melody Fair is kind of English folk. The track Give It Your Best is a square dance. There's all sorts of stuff going on here. So originally it was meant to be a concept album. Originally it was released in a flocked cover, so the cover had kind of a fuzziness to it. Originally it charted well, but it didn't wow the critics. But they've mostly come round since. Musically, I found it, yeah, it's okay. I found it a bit overblown, and I feel like maybe that's inconsistent on me, given that I like some very overblown music. But so for some reason, I didn't like this, the overblown sense of this. Vocally, it's definitely the Bee Gees, but not the kind of falsetto end. All three of them take vocal duties here. I think it's Robin's voice is the one that I like least, which is quite high and has got a weird vibrato. It sounds like an odd delivery when he sings like that. Lyrically, the songs are about all sorts of things, but I found some of the songs to be quite cheesy and some of the rhymes to be particularly predictable. I felt like it had breadth in that it covered a lot of different things, but it didn't have a lot of depth in that it didn't really kind of go below the surface in that. It felt like it was trying to get in on the concept album bandwagon, so the obvious thing here to reference is Sgt. Pepper by the Beatles, but actually I feel like it's more akin to some of the Moody Blues concept albums that came out a bit before this. Overall, my feeling was that bits of it are okay, but not all really wowed me, and it was a bit disjointed and sprawling, really. So that's what I think. I'd love to know what you think. Please don't be shy. Talk to me through the comments box. That's it from me for now.